Good evening and welcome to the special edition of MetroFocus. I'm Jack Ford. There could be a new jail coming to your neighborhood. Mayor de Blasio plans to close Rikers Island by the year 2026 and build 4 new jails throughout the boroughs. The administration's proposal even includes one facility in Queens that would house all women detainees in place of the current Rose M. Singer facility on Rikers Island. Which brings us to tonight's questions. What is it like to be a woman on Rikers Island? And is this proposal for a woman-only facility the best option? And is it possible for the notorious New York City jail to indeed close, perhaps before the year 2026? In partnership with Public Square Media, we're continuing our Justice Week series and our search for answers to these and other questions. To help, we're now joined by 2 women who were formerly incarcerated on Rikers Island. Now the founder of the nonprofit Pure Legacy, Nequacia Pollard, and Associate Vice President of Strategy at Exodus Transitional Community, Kendra Clark. And we're also joined by City Council member Helen Rosenthal. We're always pleased to have City Council member Helen Rosenthal joining us. So welcome to all of you here today. We have a lot to talk about.
Thanks for having us.
And we have a lot of personal stories that are very compelling, successful stories. I'm going to get to them in a second. Helen, let me ask you to set the stage for us here, to give us sort of the bigger picture about Rikers Island, the issues with it, and the notion of it going away. Why?
Well, we're at a wonderful moment in time where fewer and fewer people are on Rikers Island. Think about it. There were 20,000 people there in jail about 10 years ago. Now the number is 8,000. The number of women on Rikers has come down to just over 500, where nationally those numbers have skyrocketed, particularly for women, actually. Anyways, you know, the mayor ended the practice of stop and frisk. And over that time, so we went from 860,000 stop, question, frisk down to now 26,000. Some people could question that number, but during that same period of time, crime dropped precipitously, and now we're at the lowest levels since 1951. So crime is coming down. The number of people on Rikers is coming down. We have more enlightened points of view about alternatives to incarceration.
That's something I want to all talk about.
Right, so it's the perfect moment to close Rikers, which has been a tremendous fail for everyone who's landed on the island.
Let me ask you about that, and then I'm going to ask the ladies who have been there. But somebody who is not familiar with this whole conversation might be listening to what you're saying and saying, wow, that's impressive. Numbers going down, crime going down. The number of those who are incarcerated is going down. So some people might say, so why should we close Rikers?
Because today it costs $340,000 to house one person at Rikers for a year. That's an
astonishing number.
That's what we're paying for.
All right.
Number of corrections officers, pretty much the same as the numbers have come down, right? Because of all the fixed costs. So we have an opportunity to close Rikers, bring those numbers down to something more like $40,000 per person housed. That would be a tremendous humanitarian saving.
Leave a lot of money to go into other programs.
That's exactly it. And if you look at the amount of abuse that's happened at Rikers, which appears to be systemic, not something you can change because it's cultural and misguided.
So the idea is, you know what, we need to just erase Rikers and start all over again.
Of the 8,000 people on Rikers right now, 6% of the population is women, yet they represent 22% of the sexual assaults.
I saw that number, and that's a staggering number. All right, now, the 2 of you, as I mentioned in the introduction, are now doing wonderful work here. And you have in many ways used your own past experiences, the problems in your lives, and your own incarcerations as your springboard for this. So I want to ask you both the same question, but Kendra, I'll start with you as we work our way across here. Tell me a little briefly about how long you were in Rikers, why, and what you saw as the major issues there.
Sure. So I spent 4 months on Rikers before being transferred to an upstate New York State correctional facility. And while I was on Rikers, you know, there's some common stories that I usually tell. My first 3 days I spend in the bullpen before even getting to arraignment. So before even seeing a judge, there's this holding big bullpen.
So nothing happens for those.
Well, for me, it didn't because of my case. And, you know, there was a woman who was hungry and she was asking the correctional officers for food. And the correctional officers were sitting there and they had ordered food from outside, so it smelled really good. They were all eating takeout, right? And she just wanted the prison food, the jail food. She just wanted a bologna sandwich. And they refused to give it to her because it was past the time that they had already fed us. So she reached out of the bar, pulled the garbage can close to the cell, the bullpen, and she reached her hand in and started eating the food out the garbage. And I think that was my first wake up to, okay, this is how you're going to be treated on Rikers. And from every minute of every day that you're on there, the harassment, the abuse, the worry about being sexually assaulted, and I think it re-triggers that trauma that you experienced. So I actually grew up and I experienced a lot of domestic violence and trauma as a child. And back on Rikers Island, I felt like I was 8 years old again, that those male correctional officers could watch me go to the bathroom with their flashlights, and if I tried to put a piece of paper up to cover the window in the cell, you would get a ticket and you would get sent to solitary confinement. And suffering from mental illness and trauma, I knew I couldn't handle solitary confinement. So every night that I went to sleep on Rikers, I had to be worried that I was going to be raped by an officer, and if I was, there would be no one to report it to.
Equasia, how about you? How long were you there, and the issues that you saw that have stayed with you?
Well, when I first got to Rikers Island, I was 19 years old and pregnant. I had my child during that incarceration of 16 months of me being on Rikers Island. The first thing a teenage girl thinks when she's going into Rikers Island is, oh my God. It was gloomy, it was cold, because I got there in the winter of November, like a week before Thanksgiving. I just wanted to go home.
Did you get any prenatal care while you were in there, or post-delivery care?
Who's looking at it. The prenatal care was very poor. You would sit for hours in this room waiting to see a nurse, to get prenatal care, to see a doctor. I remember one time I asked the nurse, the physician that was doing the sonogram, I was like, well, can you tell me the sex of the baby? And she was like, no, you don't deserve that. You shouldn't be here. And for me, that was my wake-up call. It was a wake-up call way before then, but that was when reality really set. I was denied the nursery because of the nature of my crime. A crime is a crime. I don't think a woman should be separated from her child just because of the mistake or action that she did to get where she was. It just was a very unfortunate thing. I suffered postpartum depression. I did not have mental health services offered to me once I got back into the facility. It's just a very harsh environment to live in when you're pregnant.
You've both, as I said, used your experiences as springboards. To do something very good for society. I think you're both illustrations of what we say in society is that just because somebody made a mistake once in their life doesn't mean they can't be a productive member of society afterwards. Now, we also have to protect society from those who are not going to be productive.
Right.
So, understanding that, let's talk about some of the proposals here, and I want to get each of your viewpoints on them. One of them is this notion that says, all right, let's have a single facility for women. Yes. So the idea is close Rikers, 4 new facilities, and the proposal is one single facility, not a wing in each of the 4. Right. All right. You both seem to be nodding, saying you think that's a good idea. Do you think that's a good idea, and why? Kendra, you first, then Nikwisha.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, with the Beyond Rosie's campaign, and that's a campaign that's ran by the Women's Community Justice Association.
And so people know Rosie's is the slang term for the facility that I mentioned before, the Rose Singer facility.
And the Women's Community Justice Association is a broad base of nonprofit providers, women who are formerly incarcerated. It was originally set up as a coalition between Housing Plus, Providence House, Green Hope, and Our Children, which are 4 of the largest nonprofit organizations that serve women in New York City with respect to reentry. And so, you know, as a coalition, we kind of all came together. A lot of us are executives at other nonprofit agencies. And again, a lot of us are formerly incarcerated. And historically, you know, prisons have always, and jails have always been set up not for women, right? So even on Rikers Island, everything is designed for men. It's set up for men. The programming was really for men. So we know that if we really think at the Beyond Rosie's campaign, we don't think it, we know at the Beyond Rosie's campaign that we can decarcerate the number of women to approximately 120 or less, right? There's about 78% of the population that we know now with bail reform and all the new reforms that came out and with the increase in alternative programming that we can get that number down.
So we should mention that a lot of the people, and we've talked about this on the show before, a lot of people, especially a lot of the women, are there before their case has even been adjudicated.
Exactly.
So they're just being held until the case comes along.
I mean,
and I know it's for both. I know it's for both, but especially we saw it for women.
85% of the people there are pre-trial.
Right.
So
All right.
not been convicted.
And we'll get to these alternatives in a second. So that's you're painting a picture here for us. So so specifically then, why, if someone would say to you, I don't get it, why do you need a women's only facility?
So with the number being so low, if it's only going to be 100 women, if you were to split that up and put 25 women on each wing of a male's borough-based jail, what kind of programming are you going to get? Where is the funding? Are nonprofit providers going to be able to go in and actually provide the programs that they really need? No, because the funding is not going to be there for that. You also can't control whether it's a trauma-informed facility, and that's what we want for women. 90% of the women across America who are incarcerated experience physical or sexual abuse as children. So they have prolonged trauma, and I think that correlation between that, we need to take a different look at, you know, the women inside, what their needs are. 75% of them on the Rose M. Singer Center have mental health needs. Approximately 80% are single mothers. So when you look at these statistics, we need a fully fledged trauma-informed facility, and you're not going to be able to get that with just 25 women on a little wing.
Sure, the number is not going to generate. Let me get Lucretia in the conversation too to join in with what Kendra's saying. How do you see the notion of a single women's facility providing the kind of care and assistance that you didn't get?
I think that is needed. Being a part of the Beyond Rosie's campaign, I think that having one female-based facility, a woman will be able to improve her human conditions as a woman. You know, it's an African proverb, when you nurture a woman, she nurtures a nation. When you nurture a man, you just nurture the individual. So with that being said, you always have to pay attention to the needs of a woman. Even though we are undermined in this society, we have an important role. And when you incarcerate us because of the trauma we have been through, because I felt that I was incarcerated for my trauma. I was sexually molested and raped from the age of 10 to 13. I was walking the streets of Brooklyn broken. Even though I went to school, I got my high school diploma, I still was overlooked as nothing's wrong with her. But something was absolutely wrong with me until the day of my crime, and now I'm incarcerated. I'm detained in a place where it's dangerous for me and my child that I was carrying. Is needed. And I think this facility, the needs of a woman when she comes through Rikers Island, from the start of her being detained to her intake, to when if she exit or if she goes upstate, wherever her end result is, she's going to get helped in this facility. She's going to start that journey.
And it seems to me, and Helen, let me ask you to jump in here, we have to keep a focus on the notion of, okay, there is an element after the adjudication, there's an element of punishment that people have to do, but we can't lose sight of the notion of we want people to come out better than they were going in. But here's my question to you as a public official. Do you get a sense that the public fully embraces that notion? Because you'll oftentimes hear people say, you know what, they made a mistake. They got to serve their time, and it's not our job as society to make them better in there. What's the answer to that?
Well, first of all, we need to educate people, because if you look at some of the alternatives to incarceration program, like the facilities that the Women's Community Justice Association runs, where they take 50 women, about 50 women a year, who could be at Rikers. They've been sentenced for misdemeanors and low-level felonies. They come in and 2 years later leave, and the recidivism rate has been zero, right? Zero.
And that's clearly a goal that the society needs to look for. We want to help people so that when they get out, first of all, they don't commit another crime, and they can become productive members.
And what is it that they get at those facilities? Trauma-informed care. That means that the people around who they're interacting with are social workers, caseworkers, educators, mental health professionals who have a good idea of what these women have been through and how to help them start their journey, using your words, as opposed to correctional officers who have been trained to think we need to protect society from these people.
And there's a valid element to that. Let's make sure we understand there's a valid element. There are some people who you need. I've said this before. I was a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney.
Right.
And I came to realize that there's some bad people out there.
Absolutely.
But we can't treat everybody the same way.
Well, but even, I mean, when we say a lot of bad people out there, how do you want to treat them while they're incarcerated, right? Do you want to treat them in a way that's going to make them badder?
Right.
Or do you want to treat them in a way with respect and dignity? You're still going to have, in my mind's eye, and there's not 100% agreement on this, but at a single facility, you could still have correction officers, I would argue only female, at the far perimeter of the facility. In my mind's eye, they should be there. But the people who day to day these women would be dealing with are people who are looking out for their concerns, trauma-informed.
That's such an interesting point. What do the two of you think, given your experiences, that the notion is, all right, let's have the people who are dealing the day-to-day, minute-to-minute contact with those who are incarcerated, the females incarcerated, let's have them be social workers and people who are with nonprofit will provide protection on the periphery, but the people indoors, the staff, day-to-day contact, minute-to-minute contact, we don't need corrections officers, we need something else. What do you think of that?
We do need that element of security. When you are a woman and you're dealing with trauma, you want to relate to another woman or another person as a human being. Treat me as a human being first, and then whatever your judgment of me, being a criminal, whatever you think, treat me human first. And with that, I'm going to, even if you say the bad people that you feel like they don't deserve to be back into society, treat them human. We're all human first. So when you treat me human, I tend to want to behave human. It's just a different perspective of how you going to help me because I need help.
Right.
You know, not everyone that was in me and my sister right here in shoes, you know, not everyone wanted the help.
Right.
We wanted the help because we was like...
And it wasn't there for it.
Right.
Let me ask you another question.
Can I just add to that,
go
too?
ahead, Ken.
I do want to challenge the notion of security and how we look at that. And the one thing with DOC that I'll say is we serve... I used to
Department
work,
of Corrections.
Department of Corrections, yes. I used to work for an organization, and for 3 years I worked in the Alternative to Incarceration program where they took violent felony offenses. So these were people that were potentially facing 5-10 years upstate, sometimes even longer. And we served those same people in our nonprofit organization, and there was never any violence. These same young people were not bringing, none of our staff ever got hurt, none of them ever hurt each other. So I really want to challenge that notion that it has to be DOC that's necessarily security, because all of us nonprofit agencies are working with the same exact population that's on Rikers, and the abuse and violence that's happening on Rikers is not happening at our nonprofit
So what you've experienced is with the right selection process
Yes.
and then the right care and treatment, you can move them out of a category. Let me ask you this, because one of the kind of counter arguments, I don't know if it's an argument or not, but the concern's been raised about a single facility housing women. was, isn't that going to make it more difficult for family members and your lawyers to get there, as opposed to if it was spread out over 4 boroughs and theoretically your location would be in the borough that you lived in? It is clearly there's a value to that, but in the balancing process, do you think that's enough to mandate 4 different facilities, or do you think the arguments for a single facility basically prevail?
These women in each borough-based facility, their needs are not getting met. It's not. I don't think it's possible at all.
As you mentioned, it's such a small group. You're not going to get the funding
right,
for it.
and then you have nonprofits coming here, going there. It's going to drain them. Social work, period, is draining because you're dealing with other human beings and their issues. So if you put these women in one building, that they're getting the treatment that they need, substance abuse, trauma, whole kit and caboodle, right? You there and you in it. My mother would travel to Queens. My mother would travel from Harlem to Queens. My children would travel to Harlem to Queens just to see me. My lawyer, if they're a good lawyer, because not all lawyers want to do that, but it'd be easy for them to have access to me, to get into the facilities. When my lawyer used to come see me, he used to wait for hours just to see me. It wasn't, when lawyers come see you, it's no visiting day. So what's the excuse?
Right.
I want to add to that, too, that with only being 100 women, right, or 125 women, we can come up with some really creative ideas around transportation, specifically working with different law schools, potentially, where they could provide the transportation for attorneys or the transportation back and forth to court appearances.
I'm sure there's some faith-based organizations that will say, fine, we'll
with families,
we'll
they would be willing to do that as well. So I think we can be really creative about that. And just as a side note also, we asked on the Beyond Rosie's campaign, we worked with the mayor's office, Dana Kaplan specifically, and they ran focus groups inside the Rose Singer facility. We ran focus groups at all the nonprofit agencies that are doing alternative to incarceration programs for women, young women. So we garnered the information from these women, and they all too, in this scenario, said that they would better choose having a centralized site where they received all the programming that they needed, and we could, come up with creative transportation. It was very valuable for them, especially with us being able to come up with some creative transportation ideas.
Let me come back for a second. We got a little bit less than 2 minutes here, but let me come back. We've all talked about the notion of these alternative programs.
Yes.
And so far, all I've heard is success stories for all of them. So Helen, let me ask you from a governmental perspective, it's getting people to embrace change, especially change in the justice system, is never easy. Do you think there is an appetite out there for the public to, first of all, recognize what these women are saying and to say, all right, we need to change then. Let's implement these alternative programs because bottom line is it's going to help everybody, as opposed to people just saying, look, we got prisons. Just put people in prisons and that's it, we're done. Is there a public appetite, do you think?
Look, times are a-changing, and I think what's happened is people recognize the horrors that have happened on Rikers are unacceptable, full stop. And the state Senate this year, because of the change in politicians, now it's led by a Democrat-led majority, have made wonderful changes to the criminal justice system. Fewer people are going to land in Rikers. Now the opportunity is there to indeed make this more human approach to incarcerating people for what should really be a short period of time and a human experience. I know it's hard, but those questions can be answered.
And all of those, the human experience, the progress, and even the bottom line dollar amount are something that people need to consider. We could talk for hours. We got a lot of things that we got to talk about here. Nikwasia, Kendra, and Helen always. Thank you all for spending some time, and you too for being role models to show that you can make a mistake in your life, and yet your life can become very productive afterwards.
Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you, and good work being done. Continue that good work. We'll talk again down the road as we continue. Helen, always good to see you and help.
Always good to see you.
So that does it for our look today, but a reminder that Justice Week continues tomorrow night here on MetroFocus. Make sure you join us.